welcome into the NFL Opening Line Report with Teddy Covers. Teddy, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Hey, great to be here, Drew. I'm doing great, man. You know, it's a national championship day in college football. We swept again in the NFL this week, and it's all good, man. Nothing but smiles on a Monday morning.
Absolutely. We got the divisional round coming up. This is the NFL Opening Line Report, and Teddy in the NFL is 37-21. That's 64% full season. That's every play he's throwing out in the NFL. Sides, if you like betting sides, he's flirting with 70%, 69% on the season. And my favorite, 58.4%. That's 176, 125 since 2015 in the NFL. Knows the NFL betting markets as good as anybody. He's also got a 60% run going in the NBA, so make sure to check it out at Sportsmemo. We got the national championship game going tonight. We are going to concentrate mostly on the NFL on this podcast, but what we're seeing, Alabama minus 5.5. You seeing any value sidewise, Alabama-Clemson tonight?
Well, we're in action on the game. You can get the play right now at sportsmemo.com. Let's talk about a couple things that may not be fully factored into the point spread right now, and certainly into the total. We're seeing Alabama money so far today. It got bet as low as 5, now back up to 5.5. 6s are starting to pop up, so it looks like they're getting two-way action at the current numbers. I think this line will go off in the 5.5/6 range this evening. The total has been bet down. And we're certainly, obviously we're talking about two elite defensive squads, despite what we're talking about, with Tua and Lawrence, Tua on the one side and Lawrence on the other, two, elite young quarterbacks. But, when you grade out these two teams, the defensive talent certainly stands out. We're also talking about rainy conditions in the Bay Area tonight. Of course, this game being played 2,000 miles away from home for both of these squads. We know that the fan bases aren't showing up this year the way they have in recent meetings, so I expect the crowd to be relatively tame for a national title game with the weather conditions, with rain, and it's not supposed to be heavy rain, but the field is likely to be wet. It's likely to be sprinkling and foggy and all that sort of thing all evening. You can understand why we've seen a fair bit of under money so far this morning. That total as high as 62.5 at the opener, and really it was 60 for most of the week last week, down to 59.5. Now we're talking 57s out there right now, 57.5, the current prevailing number. Weather certainly factoring into that money on the under.
Yeah, Teddy, I mean, everything you said is spot on. It's interesting that we see almost a full touchdown move towards the under. Also, you bring up the weather, and I have read a couple tweets, haven't seen it for myself, any pictures or videos, but I have heard of turf issues there in Santa Clara. Have you seen anything like that?
Yeah, there's a lot of concern about the turf for tonight in, we'll call it Santa Clara, sure, in the Bay Area. But when we're talking about teams with elite speed, and there's no team that's faster in all of college football than Alabama, wet turf doesn't necessarily factor into what they're trying to do.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting, up front, Alabama's as good as anybody, so you might think that the turf might help them being kind of rugged like that, but you're right. It's going to slow them down, as it will slow down Clemson. Should be a interesting game tonight. You bring up the fan base having trouble going out there. I mean, that's just, that's the basics of it. People are like, oh, does college football need to worry this and that? I mean, it's two southern teams heading to Northern California. That's a very expensive trip, not to mention both of these two teams are in the playoffs each and every year, it seems. So I wouldn't look too much into that as just kind of a one-off thing. Would you, Teddy?
Well, I mean, no, it's definitely a one-off thing. The fact is that, the game's being played in the Bay Area, and it's two teams that have to travel from 2,000 miles away, and they've both been in these games in every recent season. So it's not like the fan base has to get there for this one. They've already been to closer matchups in recent years. Where it factors is, I don't think the crowd noise is going to, we think about these crazy, the crowd is that huge. I don't know if it's going to be that huge tonight. So, the intensity of going into some of the Death Valley on a Saturday night or going into Tuscaloosa, it's not going to be there this evening. It's a true road game for both teams in a sense. And, obviously both squads have had success in hostile environments this season. That's why they're here. But I don't expect a whole lot of comfort level from either squad, certainly not early on in this one.
And Teddy's got to play on the national championship game at sportsmemo.com. So do I. You can check both of them out at sportsmemo.com for just $9. It's $9 Monday, which is a big discount out there at sportsmemo.com. Teddy, let's get into the NFL opening line report, the nuts and bolts of this podcast. 301-302, Indianapolis, Kansas City, 57 the total. Seeing KC at home laying 5 or 5.5, depending where you're shopping.
Yeah, and normally on the opening line report, we like to talk about the look-ahead lines. Obviously, in the playoffs, we don't have a look-ahead lines. What I'm going to give you is my power rating number for these games. I'll give you the opener, and there's disparity amongst openers. I'm going to talk about what the openers were, and we're going to talk about where the market has moved from the opener, what we can expect moving forward. So Indy and KC, again, no look-ahead line. My power rating number is KC minus 5.5. I'm going to say this opened 6. It was 6 last night. Penny opened 6. Westgate opened 5.5. Bookmaker opened 4 and took money on KC immediately. And it was sitting at 6 last night. Now today we're seeing 5s, 5.5. So there's clearly some betting market support for Indy right now. Obviously, when you look at this Colts team, they started 1-5. Since that time, they're 10-1. The only loss coming by a single score at Jacksonville. In a game where they held the Jaguars to 6 points, it was one of those games. From a point differential standpoint, the best point differential in the NFL during that 11-game span. And there's a thought process out there that right now Indy's as good as anybody in the AFC. That's certainly being reflected in the early betting action. Of course, it's a Kansas City team that, A, has had defensive issues all year, and B, as we saw very clearly this past weekend, the first-time postseason starters did not fare well. Whether it was Lamar Jackson, whether it was Mitch Trubisky, whether it was Deshaun Watson, that's 0-3 straight up, 0-3 against the spread for teams with a QB making his playoff debut. That's exactly what Patrick Mahomes will be doing on Saturday. Although, make no mistake about it, when it comes to QBs who are defying expectations and, everybody but this guy, Patrick Mahomes has certainly been that QB all season long. There's a reason he's going to win the NFL MVP award when I would think he's going to win. I don't know, maybe Breeze will win. But the bottom line, there's a reason that he's a strong MVP candidate, even though when you look at the track record, KC's defense, first-time QB starters, you can understand why the money has come on Indy. And again, I expect more money on the Colts. If you like the Indianapolis Colts, get them sooner, not later. They will continue to be a popular choice among bettors. You can count on it.
Teddy, we got the later game on Saturday, the night game. Dallas at the LA Rams, 49.5 the total. Looks like the Rams laying 7 pretty much across the board.
Yeah, and of course, as we saw this last weekend with the Cowboys, every half point matters. So help me God, in the postseason, every half point matters even more. If you bet Dallas early, you won. If you bet Dallas late, you lost. If you shopped around and found the best number with Dallas, you won. If you have only one out, you probably lost. That's, not even push. That's a loss, So the difference between winning and losing can be razor thin. Please be aware. 7, the prevailing number right now for the Rams. 6.5, my powering number on LA. There is a prominent 7.5 out there. A couple of prominent 7.5s out there in look-ahead books. Open 6.5 at Bookmaker, 6.5 at Westgate, 7.5 at Penny. And now the market's sitting at 7. We're seeing I shouldn't even say it. We saw a little bit of under money in Indy KC. I keep feeling we're going to get over money for Dallas. The Rams we hasn't shown yet. Total there sitting 49/49.5. And the Rams, with their first-time starter at QB last year, Jared Goff, didn't play well in the postseason. Now, this time around, he's a playoff veteran. The Rams, certainly from an explosive offense standpoint, match up fairly well against a Cowboys team that's been pedestrian in that regard. And, of course, Dallas's great success this season has come at home. not on the highway. So where's the money going to come here? It feels like a 7. I don't think the broader markets move to 7.5 in this ball game. I don't think they definitely don't go back down to 6.5 for this one. But the Rams at 7 looks to be where this line is likely to settle, which means if you find a 6.5, lay it. If you find a 7.5, take it. Those numbers are likely to be outliers as the betting markets mature.
Good breakdowns there, Teddy, on the Saturday games. We got the Sunday games coming up next. And guys, remember the coupon code NFL99 at checkout for Teddy's full season NFL, what the rest of it is, for $50 off. That's just $99 at sportsmemo.com. You'll get the divisional round, the championship round, the Super Bowl, plus the props package. I mean, the props package alone is going to be what, Teddy, $60? So for just with this coupon code NFL99 at checkout, you'll get all of that for just $99. Teddy's hit 64% year to date in the NFL, 58% since 2015. That's on over 300 plays released by Teddy. So check that out at sportsmemo.com. Coupon code NFL99 at checkout. Teddy, Sunday's games, the early one, LA Chargers, New England Patriots making the cross-country trip again. The Chargers are 46.5 or 47 being the total. Looks like the home Pats laying 4 in Foxborough.
Yeah, again, my powering number here is New England minus 4.5. The markets, I mean, Bookmaker opened 5, Penny opened 4, Westgate opened 4.5. And, it sat at 4.5 last night. The 4.5s are getting eaten up this morning. We're seeing 4s pretty, I'm not going to say pretty much across the board, but they're the key leading indicator books are already at 4 for New England and the Chargers. The Patriots are not going to be the usual, New England in the postseason, New England, and remember, in an NFL postseason that has now seen underdogs go 14-1 against the spread, against the closing line since the start of the 2017 playoffs. The one, that was New England in their divisional round game last year when they beat the Titans 35-14, covered as nearly 2 touchdown favorites. That's the only favorite that's covered in the last 2 years in the NFL playoffs. It's been dog. Obviously, the Chargers have been winning on the road all year. The Chargers pretty well dominated their game at Baltimore for 3 quarters. Things got interesting late. Perhaps for LA, but certainly a team that the betting markets are fairly bullish on right now. We're seeing Chargers money already, and there's, there could be some disparity here between the public books and the sharper books, but it just feels like right now, in general, the Chargers are a fairly popular team amongst both categories, public and wise guys. The 4.5s don't look like they're likely to hold for much longer. If you like the Chargers, grab a 4.5 right now.
And Teddy, as far as the public and sharper books, so a public book would be like Bovada. Are there any other public books that you could throw out there?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, this is how I have my live odds screen set. All right, I got what I consider the sharp books in one area, and I got Bookmaker and Penny and CG Technology, South Point, offshore in Vegas. I put Westgate in that category, 5 Dimes in that category, and then so that's what I'm looking at. The sharper books. Grande certainly belongs there. Heritage belongs there as well. When you talk about books that cater to recreational bettors, again, I got these kind of put together on my screen, where I have William Hill, Bovada, Sports Interaction's a real good one to look at, where all they take is public money, and anyone that bets there and wins gets kicked out immediately. Here in Vegas, the coast casinos, the station casinos are pretty good indicators of where the public money is. So when you see a legitimate disparity, all the lines over on the left side with the sharp books are sitting at 4, and all the lines on the right side of the screen with the square books are sitting at 5.5, you could see that dichotomy real easy. This isn't quite as dramatic for the Chargers and the Patriots, but the sharp books are pretty well all at 4 right now on New England, and some of the public books are still at 4.5.
All right, thanks for explaining that. We got one game left here, guys, the afternoon game on Sunday. Philadelphia at New Orleans, 50.5 or 51 the total. South Point showing 51. but Chris showing 50.5, so that's one on each side of the spectrum as far as sharp and square. But we got 7.5 or 8, depending where you're shopping. That's the Saints laying in the big easy, Teddy.
Yeah, my powering number, Saints minus 8.5. The opening number here, I'm going to call it a 9. Sitting at 9 last night, and there was legit disparity here. Bookmaker opened 7.5, Penny opened 10, Westgate opened 9. And again, we're talking about openers within 5 minutes of one another. So we're not talking about, and then the markets had converged at 9 last night. This morning they're converging at 8, and some of the books even down to 7.5. Including Bookmaker and a handful of the offshore. So there has been Philadelphia money. There will be public money. The Sixers, no, not the 76ers. The Eagles are going to be a public side this weekend, period. All right, the square books are going to be down. Who knows how low this line will go for the square books, because obviously we all know what Nick Foles and the Eagles are doing, which is winning games as underdogs in the postseason 4 in a row for Philly. Despite the fact that in NFL history, no team's ever won 5 games in a row as underdogs, the Eagles are going to be the popular choice because they look good last week. They look good last year. Philly's going to take the money, certainly at the public books in this one. Although, does it get to 7? I don't know that it does. I think the Saints, it's 7.5, 8. There's going to be enough wise guy support for New Orleans this week against Philadelphia to keep this number from really dropping. That being said, there's 7.5s out there. I wouldn't hesitate to lay the 7.5 if you like New Orleans. I don't think it gets a whole lot lower. The 8.5s are pretty much gone now. The 9s are pretty much gone now. There's still a couple of 8.5s out there, but it's not like you're talking about a key number. With Philly at the 8, nice to have in your pocket, but every half point matters. Yes, from 8 to 8.5, not as key perhaps as 1.5 to 2 or 2 to 2.5 when it comes to these postseason games.
Teddy, and what was that stat? You said no team in NFL history has won 5 straight as underdogs?
5 straight as underdogs in the postseason. Never happened.
Interesting.
4 is a limit, and Philly's at 4 right now. After winning all 3 last year as dogs. They were home dogs twice. They were dogs in the Super Bowl, and they won as dogs thanks to Cody Parkey's missed field goal. There's nothing more fun than when Double Doink gets trending on Twitter, man. There's something about that just made me laugh. And I apologize if you're a Bears fan. It didn't matter, ATS, obviously. But for fans, that was a pretty crushing loss for Chicago.
Yeah, what'd you think of that? Cody Parkey Double Doink off the... man, I feel for the kid, Teddy. Do you?
Yes and no. I mean, the kicker's got one job, dude. And he's got a $14 million guaranteed contract. Even if everyone in Chicago hates him for life, the way that everyone in Minnesota hates Blair Walsh for life. But it's funny that you still remember Blair Walsh's name 5 years later. I mean, I do feel sorry for him. He's human. Everybody's human. The kick got blocked. Apparently, even though nobody knew it for 3 hours after the game. But the bottom line is, you got one job. Make the frickin' kick, dude. If you sign up to be a kicker, that's the type of pressure you're going to put yourself under. You got paid for it. I don't really have that much sympathy for him. I don't.
No, he's definitely getting paid for it. The professional athlete thing, you can only feel for him so much. I don't know. He seems like a nice guy. He went to Auburn. I've met him a couple times. He seems like a real nice guy. And you bring up Blair Walsh as well. I'll tell you, those are two South Florida kickers, man. You can't trust those South Florida kickers because they're not.
Zane Gonzalez. Let's get him in the mix. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, just kickers.
Oh, was it Zane? Who was the guy that the Bucks? There was a guy the Bucks drafted and botched just a couple years ago. Oh, I'm spacing on it right now. It was like a second Aguayo. That's who I'm thinking of.
Oh, yeah, Roberto Aguayo from Florida State.
Yeah, another
right.
Florida product,
Yeah, I can't trust those guys. I don't know. Athletes, yes, not kickers. But anyway, Teddy, anything else you want to throw out before we shut this down?
All good, man. I mean, it's been a great NFL season. We were able to cash in this weekend again with another strong report. And, the NBA's heating up. I feel pretty good. The kids back in school today. It's like life's returning to normal after Christmas break, and I'm looking forward to a big January. So let's see what we can do tonight and moving forward, man. I'm excited about the national championship game, et cetera, et cetera. You know the drill, Drew. All good, my friend.
Yeah, you betting any props or any props you're looking at in tonight's championship game?
The props I'm going to look at are on the defensive side of the ball. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. All right. Good stuff. And best of luck out there, everybody, with your bets if you're involved in the national championship and looking to bet the NFL. Check out Teddy. Not many better options. Coupon code NFL99 at checkout will give you $50 off the rest of the season. That just brings it down to $99. Get you all the way through the Super Bowl, the props package, everything like that. Sportsmemo.com. Coupon code NFL99 at checkout. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll be back tomorrow with some NHL Every Game on the Board podcast with Andrew McGinnis.